The stars above the Zarkan cluster blinked cold and distant as Queen Vila stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Silver Hawk. Around her, the hum of machinery and the chatter of officers filled the room. Outside the thick glass, the endless black of space was streaked with flashes of laser fire and explosions. The war had lasted for many months, and her people, the Zurans, were losing. Queen Vila's face was calm, but inside she felt a storm. Her green eyes scanned the fleet's status screens. Red warnings blinked everywhere. Their ships were damaged, their fuel low, and their supply lines had been cut off. The enemy, the ironclad fleet, was stronger and better equipped. They had more ships, more weapons, and more soldiers. Every battle seemed to push the Zurans closer to defeat. Her advisors stood nearby, their faces tense. Commander Ran, the fleet's second-in-command, spoke in a low voice. "Your Majesty, we must consider surrender. Continuing this fight will only cost more lives." Queen Vila shook her head. "No," she said firmly. "We cannot give up now. Our people believe in us. We must find another way." "But the ironclads control the space around us," another advisor said. "We cannot break their defenses. They will destroy us if we keep trying." The Queen turned to the large window again. The battle raged on far below. Her ships were retreating slowly, trying to avoid the enemy's fire. She felt the weight of responsibility. Her people looked to her for hope and strength. If she showed weakness now, all would be lost. The war was not just about territory or power. It was about survival. The Zuran Empire had thrived for centuries, but the ironclads wanted to take their home world, their culture, and their freedom. Queen Vila could not let that happen. Suddenly, an alert beeped on the communications console. A message was coming from the neutral space station called Halden Prime, where peace talks were scheduled. Queen Vila had agreed to attend, hoping to negotiate, or at least find a way to pause the fighting. The Queen ordered her ship to set course for Halden Prime. As they traveled, she gathered her closest advisors. "We will meet the ironclad leaders there. Maybe we can find a solution without more bloodshed." The space station was massive and bright, orbiting a small blue planet. It was a place where many species came together to talk, trade, and live in peace. The Queen's ship docked, and she stepped onto the station's wide promenade. Crowds of different aliens moved around, some curious, some tense. Soldiers in shiny armor guarded the halls. At the peace summit, the leaders of the ironclad fleet sat across from Queen Vila and her council. The room was silent as the talks began. But the ironclad commander, a tall figure named Lord Kron, was cold and harsh. "Your forces are weak," Lord Kron said. "You must surrender or face total destruction. The ironclads will not stop until the Zurans are broken." Queen Vila held her head high. "Our people will never surrender. We will fight for our home, no matter the cost." The talks ended in deadlock. Both sides refused to give in. Queen Vila left the meeting frustrated and weary. As she walked through the station's grand hall, she noticed a crowd of onlookers gathered near a small platform. The crowd was mostly humans, who had come from Earth to observe the peace talks. Among them was a young human named Nico. He was not a soldier or a diplomat, but an engineer with a quick mind and a curious spirit. Nico listened carefully to the arguments and the Queen's words. He saw the pain in her eyes and the tension in the room. When the meeting ended, and most people began to leave, Nico surprised everyone by stepping forward. "Your Majesty," he said loudly, his voice clear and steady, "I may not be a leader or a warrior, but I have an idea that could help your people." The room grew quiet. All eyes turned to the human. Queen Vila looked at him, curious and cautious. "Speak, human. What idea do you have?" Nico took a deep breath. "I have studied many battles and technologies. I think you are fighting the ironclads the wrong way. Instead of trying to match their strength, you could use your home space, the asteroids and the unknown areas, to your advantage. You could use smaller ships, fast and quiet, to strike where they don't expect. And if you adapt your technology to be more flexible, you can survive longer. The Queen's advisors exchanged doubtful looks. One whispered, "Who is this human to give advice to a queen?" But Queen Vila held up a hand to silence them. She saw something in Nico's eyes, a kind of hope and determination she had not seen in a long time. Maybe the stranger had a point. "Very well," she said slowly. "We will listen to your plan. If it can save my people, I will consider it." Nico smiled quietly. For the first time in many months, a spark of hope kindled in Queen Vila's heart. The war was far from over, but maybe, just maybe, there was a chance to turn the tide. After the peace talks ended in failure, the Great Hall of Halden Prime grew quiet. The leaders returned to their ships, tired and unsure what to do next. But Queen Vila stayed behind, her mind still filled with the strange words of the human named Nico. She watched him from a distance as he spoke quietly to a group of technicians near the station's observation deck. He was not like the other humans she had seen. His eyes were full of energy and ideas. She felt a sudden urge to understand more about him and the advice he had offered. Later that evening, the Queen requested a private meeting with Nico. The room they met in was small but comfortable, with soft light and a view of the stars beyond the space station windows. "Nico," Queen Vila began, using his name with a tone of respect, "your suggestion was unusual, but it may be the key to saving my people. Tell me more. How would you use these asteroids and small ships to fight the ironclads?" Nico nodded and smiled. "Your Majesty, the ironclads have many big ships. They are strong and slow. Their weapons are powerful, but they rely on clear space to use them well. The asteroid fields around your home system are like a maze full of rocks, tunnels, and shadows. If your ships can move quietly and quickly through these areas, they can hide and attack unexpectedly." He pulled out a small holographic device and projected a 3D map of the asteroid field near the Zuran homeworld. The glowing blue shapes moved slowly, showing gaps and narrow paths here. Nico explained, "Your ships could hide behind large asteroids. You can use drones to scout ahead. If the ironclads chase you, you can lead them into traps, or disappear into the fields where their big ships cannot follow." Queen Vila watched the map carefully. It made sense. The Zuran Navy had never fully used the asteroid fields because their technology was designed for open space battles, not close, tricky spaces. "How would we make our ships faster and quieter?" she asked. Nico smiled again. "That's where I can help. I have worked with small drones and fast ships on Earth. If I can work with your engineers, we can modify your ships to be more flexible. They will be smaller, but smarter. We can add better sensors, new engines, and communication systems so your fleet can move together without being seen." One of the Queen's advisors, a tall Zuran named Mirek, stepped forward. "And you think these small ships can defeat the ironclads? We are outnumbered and outgunned." Nico met Mirek's eyes. "Not alone. But with smart tactics and surprise, you can win many small battles. Over time, those add up." Queen Vila nodded slowly. "Your words give me hope, Nico. But this plan is risky. If we fail, we may lose everything." "I understand," Nico said. "But sometimes, hope is the strongest weapon." The Queen took a deep breath. "Very well. You will work with our engineers. Show us how to build and use these ships." The next days passed quickly. Nico met with Zuran scientists and engineers in the shipyards of Halden Prime. They were curious but cautious. Nico's ideas were new, but he explained everything carefully, drawing diagrams and demonstrating how small drones could scout and gather information without being detected. The engineers tested new engines and communication systems inspired by human designs. Slowly, they modified a group of small Zuran ships, making them faster and able to move through tight spaces with ease. Nico worked tirelessly, sometimes sleeping only a few hours before returning to the shipyard. The Zuran engineers began to trust him. They saw that his knowledge was real, and his heart was with their people. Queen Vila visited the shipyards often, watching the progress. She was surprised by how quickly things changed. The small ships, which had once been weak and slow, now looked like nimble hunters ready to strike. Meanwhile, the ironclad fleet continued their patrols, unaware that the Zurans were changing their strategy. Lord Kron, the ironclad commander, grew more confident. The Zurans are weak, he told his officers. They have no choice but to surrender soon. But Queen Vila knew better. She watched the stars, waiting for the right moment to strike. One evening, during a meeting with her commanders, she shared Nico's plan. "We will use the asteroid fields to hide our small ships," she said. "Our fleet will move like shadows, striking where the ironclads least expect." Commander Rand nodded slowly. "It is different. But it could work. We must train our pilots and crews well." Nico smiled. "I will help. I will teach them how to use the drones and new systems." The first test mission came sooner than expected. A small group of modified Zuran ships, guided by Nico's drones, slipped silently into the asteroid field near the enemy's supply route. Queen Vila and her advisors watched the live feed nervously. The small ships moved fast, weaving through rocks, their shapes barely visible. Suddenly, a flash appeared on the screen. The ironclad patrol ship was caught off guard. The Zuran ships disabled its engines quickly, then disappeared into the asteroids. The room erupted in quiet cheers. For the first time in months, hope returned. Queen Vila smiled, feeling the weight on her shoulders lighten just a little. With this human's help, her people might still win the war. The success of the first stealth mission filled the Zuran fleet with new energy. Queen Vila stood on the bridge of the Silver Hawk, watching the stars beyond the viewport. Her eyes shone with a mix of hope and determination. After many months of suffering, her people had found a new way to fight, a way that used their strengths, not just their weapons. Nico stood beside her, holding a tablet with real-time data. He pointed to a cluster of ships moving carefully through the asteroid field. "These ships are our best hope," he said. "They move quickly and quietly, using the asteroids to hide. The ironclads can't see them until it's too late." Queen Vila nodded. "We will use this strategy to protect our home world and break the enemy's supply lines. But we must train every pilot to be ready. This kind of fighting is very different." The small ships, now called shadow hunters, had become the pride of the Zuran navy. They were smaller and faster than the ironclad warships. Their pilots learned to fly close to asteroids, using every rock and shadow to avoid detection. Drones guided their movements, sending back information that helped avoid traps. In the shipyards, engineers worked around the clock to build more shadow hunters. Nico's ideas had changed the way the Zurans thought about war. Instead of fighting with brute strength, they now relied on cleverness, speed, and surprise. Commander Ran approached Queen Vila one morning with a report. "Your Majesty, the shadow hunters have already disrupted 2 ironclad supply routes. The enemy is confused. Their patrols are scattered." Queen Vila smiled. "Good. This is just the beginning. We must keep the pressure on." But the ironclads were not easily defeated. Lord Kron, their cold and ruthless commander, ordered his ships to adapt. "The Zurans use the asteroid fields to hide. Then we will send more scouts. We will use stronger sensors and new tactics. Find their ships and destroy them." The ironclads brought in heavy sensor arrays and trained their pilots to fly in the difficult asteroid fields. Battles grew more intense. The skies near the Zuran homeworld were filled with flashes of light and the sound of distant explosions. One day, a group of shadow hunters was sent on a dangerous mission. Their target was a large ironclad supply convoy moving through a narrow part of the asteroid belt. The convoy was protected by heavily armed ships, but Nico had a plan. The convoy will follow this path, Nico explained. We will split our hunters into two groups. One group will attack the front, distracting the enemy. The other group will sneak around and strike the middle of the convoy, where the supplies are. The Zuran pilots prepared carefully. Queen Vila watched with pride as the small ships disappeared into the darkness of space. The battle began quietly. The first group of shadow hunters darted in and out of the asteroid shadows, firing precise shots to confuse the ironclad guards. The enemy ships focused on them, believing they had found the main attack. Meanwhile, the second group moved silently behind the convoy. Using Nico's drones to navigate, they slipped past the guards and targeted the supply ships. Explosions lit up the dark space as the supply ships were disabled. Without their supplies, the ironclad fleet would struggle to keep fighting. But the ironclads were quick to respond. Their warships turned to chase the shadow hunters. The small Zuran ships flew fast and close to the asteroids, weaving through tight spaces the larger ironclad ships could not follow. One pilot, a young Zuran named Lyra, flew her ship with skill and courage. She dodged laser fire and led the enemy ships on a wild chase. Using the shadows and rocks, she disappeared just as the ironclads thought they had her trapped. Queen Vila watched the battlefield with a racing heart. When the last supply ship exploded and the hunters returned safely, the fleet cheered. "This is a great victory," she said. "The ironclads will think twice before moving supplies near our home." Nico smiled, but he warned, "We must be ready. The ironclads will change their tactics again. This war is far from over." Queen Vila agreed. "We will keep fighting, but we will fight smarter." The Queen called a meeting of her top commanders. "Our success has shown the strength of our new strategy. But the ironclads will not give up. We must improve our ships and train every pilot to use the asteroid fields like home." Commander Rand suggested, "We should build more drones for scouting and communication. If our pilots have better information, they can avoid danger and attack more effectively." Nico added, "We can also improve our engines to make the shadow hunters faster and more silent. The more surprises we create, the better." Queen Vila looked around the room, feeling the determination in the eyes of her people. "Then that is what we will do. This war will be won not by the biggest ships, but by the smartest and bravest." Days turned into weeks. The Zuran engineers, with Nico's help, built new drones and improved the shadow hunters. Pilots trained harder than ever before. Queen Vila's fleet began to grow stronger and more confident. The ironclad fleet felt the pressure. Their supply lines were broken, and their patrols were weaker. Lord Kron's cold smile faded as he realized the war was not as easy as he thought. Queen Vila stood on her ship's bridge one evening, looking at the stars. The war was far from over, but the hope in her heart had returned. With the help of the human named Nico, the Zurans had found a new way to fight and maybe even win. The Zuran fleet moved quietly through the dense asteroid field, its small ships like shadows weaving between the giant rocks. Queen Vila stood on the bridge of the Silver Hawk, watching the progress of the mission. This was the first true test of the new strategy that Nico had helped create. The stakes were high. Success would bring hope. Failure could mean disaster. Nico stood beside the Queen, his eyes focused on the screens showing the positions of the shadow hunters. He checked the drone feeds and sensor readings carefully. "The ironclad patrols are weak in this area," he said. "If we move fast and keep low, we can strike their supply station without being seen." Commander Rand nodded. "Our pilots are ready. They have trained for weeks in the asteroid fields. This is their moment." Queen Vila's heart beat faster. "Remember, this mission is not just about attack. It is about survival. We must protect our home and send a message to the ironclads. The small ship slipped deeper into the asteroid belt. The stars outside the station windows were hidden by the huge rocks and dust. The ships moved in tight formation, silent and alert. Suddenly, a warning beep sounded. One of the drones detected a patrol ship ahead. The shadow hunters slowed and slipped behind a large asteroid. Nico smiled. Perfect. The patrol does not know we are here. The patrol ship moved slowly, scanning the area with bright sensors. It was big and slow, built for open space, not close combat. The Zuran ships waited patiently. Then, in a quick and precise attack, the shadow hunters struck. Laser beams flashed, and the patrol ship's engines sputtered. It tried to escape but was trapped among the rocks. Explosions shook the dark space as the patrol ship was destroyed. The small ships disappeared before the ironclads could call for help. The fleet cheered softly on the Silver Hawk. Queen Vila smiled, but she knew the war was far from over. This is just the beginning, she said. We will take back our space one step at a time. News of the victory spread quickly. Across Zuran worlds, people celebrated the small but powerful win. The morale of the fleet rose. The ironclads, however, grew more cautious and angry. They knew the Zurans had changed their tactics. Lord Kron stared at his command screen, frustration clear on his face. The Zurans are clever, he said. But they will not win. Increase patrols. Do not let them near our supply stations again. But Queen Vila and her commanders kept moving forward. They studied the enemy's reactions carefully, learning to predict their moves. Nico worked closely with the pilots, teaching them how to use the drones and new ship systems. His human ways of thinking, creative, fast, and flexible, were a breath of fresh air for the Zurans. One pilot, Lyra, became especially skilled. She was brave and quick, often leading the most dangerous missions. After several successful strikes, Queen Vila called a council meeting to plan the next steps. We have broken their patrols and supply lines, she said. Now we must push further. The ironclads cannot fight if they have no supplies. Commander Ran added, but they will defend their command ships fiercely. We must be ready. Nico nodded. I have an idea. We can use new drone technology to create distractions, confuse their sensors, and open paths for our ships. Queen Vila smiled. Good. Let us prepare. The following weeks were filled with intense work. Engineers built new drones based on Nico's designs. These drones could fly ahead, send false signals, and jam enemy sensors. The Zuran pilots trained harder than ever, learning to trust the drones and each other. The shadow hunters became faster and more deadly. The fleet moved like a living shadow through space, striking where the enemy least expected. One night, the Zurans launched a large operation against an ironclad supply base hidden deep in the asteroid field. The drones flew first, creating false signals and blinding enemy sensors. The ironclad ships were confused and unable to call for help. Then the shadow hunters attacked from all sides, moving quickly between the rocks. The supply base exploded in a brilliant fireball. The mission was a complete success. Queen Vila allowed herself a rare moment of joy. This is our victory, she said quietly. We show the galaxy that the Zuran spirit is alive and strong. Nico looked at her. Your people fought bravely. I am proud to stand with you. The ironclads retreated to their warships, shaken but not defeated. Queen Vila knew this was only the first victory in a long war. But hope had returned. She looked out at the stars, knowing that with courage, cleverness, and unity, her people could change the future. The Zuran fleet celebrated their recent victories, but beneath the surface, tensions began to rise. Queen Vila knew the war was far from over, and new dangers awaited, some from outside the battle, some from within. Nico walked through the busy halls of the Halden Prime shipyards. He watched the engineers working on new drones and ships, their faces filled with hope. But Nico's mind was restless. The enemy was clever, and he feared the ironclads might try something unexpected. Queen Vila met with her commanders in a private chamber. "We have made great progress," she said, "but we cannot let our guard down. The ironclads will try new tricks." Commander Rand nodded. "We have also heard rumors of spies in our midst. Someone may be feeding information to the enemy." The room grew silent. Spies were a dangerous threat. They could undo everything the Zurans had worked for. Nico frowned. "How can we trust anyone now?" Queen Vila looked serious. "We must be careful. We will strengthen our security and watch for any signs of betrayal." Meanwhile, deep inside the space station, a shadow moved quietly. A Zuran named Talon, once a respected officer, had grown angry and bitter. He believed the war was lost and that the Queen's new ideas were foolish. Talon secretly met with a mysterious figure who wore the colors of the ironclad fleet. "Your people are weak," the figure whispered. "Help us, and you will be rewarded. Stop this foolish fight." Talon's eyes burned with anger. "If the Queen continues, many will die. I will do what is necessary." He handed over secret plans and locations, hoping to end the war quickly but at the cost of his own people's safety. Back in the command room, Queen Vila received troubling news. An ironclad patrol was waiting in ambush near the asteroid belt, an officer reported. "They knew our routes and our tactics." Nico's face grew serious. "Someone told them. There is a spy." Queen Vila clenched her fists. "Find this traitor. We cannot afford to lose." The fleet became more cautious. Pilots flew with greater care, and trust was harder to find. Nico and Commander Rand worked to improve their drone systems, hoping to catch the spy through hidden signals. They also held secret meetings with the crew, reminding them of the importance of loyalty and courage. One day, a pilot named Sarah came forward. "I saw Talon near the communication room late at night," she said. "He was not where he should be." Queen Vila called for Talon's arrest. When confronted, he did not deny the charges. "I only wanted to save my people," he said bitterly. The Queen looked at him with sadness. "Betrayal only brings more pain. We fight to protect our future." With the spy caught, the Zurans strengthened their defenses. They changed their routes, improved their codes, and worked harder to stay ahead of the ironclads. Nico continued to teach the pilots new ways to use drones and small ships. "We must be like shadows," he said. "Invisible but strong." The pilots practiced day and night. They learned to trust their instincts and each other. The shadow hunters grew faster and more precise. Then, a new threat appeared. The ironclads launched a surprise attack on a Zuran mining colony. The colony was important for resources and morale. Losing it would be a heavy blow. Queen Vila ordered the fleet to defend the colony. "We cannot let them destroy what we have built." The battle was fierce. The ironclads sent large warships to crush the defenders. But the Zuran pilots used the asteroid fields and drones to their advantage. Lyra, the brave pilot, led a group of shadow hunters in a daring strike. They flew close to the enemy ships, attacking from unexpected angles. Explosions lit the dark space. The ironclads struggled to keep up. Slowly, the Zurans pushed back the attackers. The colony was saved. Queen Vila watched the battle from her ship, pride shining in her eyes. "This is our home," she said. "And we will fight for it." After the battle, Nico spoke to the Queen quietly. "The ironclads will not stop. They will try anything." Queen Vila nodded. "Neither will we." She looked at the stars, knowing that the road ahead was still full of danger but also hope. Together, they would protect their people, no matter the cost. The months of battle had taken their toll on the Zuran fleet. Though they had won many small victories, Queen Vila knew the war was far from over. The ironclads still had great power, and the final fight would be the hardest. In the quiet room aboard the Silver Hawk, Queen Vila met with Nico and her top commanders. The air was thick with tension and hope. "We have weakened their supply lines," Queen Vila said, "but the ironclad warships are still strong. We cannot defeat them by small attacks alone." Nico nodded. "We need a bold plan. Something that will surprise the ironclads and give us a real chance to win." Commander Ran leaned forward. "What if we use everything we have, our fast ships, drones, and the asteroid fields, to launch a surprise strike on their main fleet?" Queen Vila's eyes sparkled. "Yes. We can gather our entire fleet and attack where they least expect." Nico smiled. "And I have been working on a new drone system. These drones can create false images and signals. We can trick the ironclads into thinking our fleet is in one place while we attack from another." The commanders exchanged looks. This was risky, but it might work. For the next few days, the Zeran fleet prepared. Pilots trained for the biggest battle they had ever faced. Engineers worked tirelessly to finish the new drones and upgrade the Shadow Hunters. Queen Vila visited the shipyards often, encouraging the crew. "This is our moment," she said. "We fight for our homes, our families, and our future." Nico met with the pilots, sharing his knowledge. "Trust your ships and your instincts. Use the drones wisely. Stay close to the asteroids. Remember, speed and surprise are our greatest weapons." The night before the attack, Queen Vila stood alone, looking out at the stars. The quiet was different now, full of promise and fear. The day of the battle arrived. The Zeran fleet moved into position inside the asteroid belt, hidden from ironclad sensors by thick rock and dust. Nico released the new drones first. They flew ahead, sending false signals and images, making the ironclads believe the Zeran fleet was far away. The ironclad commanders ordered their ships to move toward the fake fleet. Confident and unaware, they left their strong defenses. Then, from the shadows, the Zeran fleet struck. Small ships darted between the asteroids, their laser fire hitting the ironclad warships from unexpected angles. The drones jammed enemy sensors, making it difficult for the ironclads to respond. The battle was fierce. Explosions shook the darkness as ships on both sides were damaged or destroyed. Queen Vila watched from the bridge of the Silver Hawk, her heart pounding. "Hold the line. Protect our fleet." Lyra led the Shadow Hunters with skill and courage. She moved like a shadow, attacking and disappearing before the enemy could react. Nico monitored the drones, directing their movements. "Keep the pressure on. Confuse them. We are winning." But the ironclads were not defeated yet. Lord Kron ordered his flagship to fire a powerful weapon, creating a massive blast that shook the asteroid field. Several Zeran ships were damaged, but the fleet held strong. Queen Vila knew this was the moment to act. "Send the strike team to the flagship. Disable it." Lyra and a small group of pilots volunteered for the dangerous mission. Using the asteroid cover and drone signals, they slipped past enemy fire and attacked the ironclad flagship. Explosions rocked the ship as the Zeran pilots hit key systems. The flagship's weapons went offline. With their leader weakened, the ironclad fleet began to retreat. The Zeran fleet cheered as the enemy ships withdrew. Queen Vila smiled, her eyes shining with pride and relief. "Today, we have changed the course of the war." Nico looked at the Queen. "Your people fought with courage and heart. This victory is theirs." Commander Ran added, "The ironclads will think twice before attacking again." After the battle, the Zerans gathered to honor the pilots and engineers who made the victory possible. Queen Vila spoke to her people, her voice strong and full of hope. "We have faced great danger, but we stood together. We fought with courage, wisdom, and unity. Our home is safe for now. But we must never forget the price of freedom." Nico smiled quietly, proud to be part of the Zuran fight. He looked at the stars, wondering what the future would bring. The war had lasted many months, but today felt different. The Zuran fleet, led by Queen Vila and guided by Nico's wisdom, had finally forced the ironclad fleet to retreat. The stars seemed quieter, the dark space calmer. On the bridge of the Silver Hawk, Queen Vila stood looking out into the vast universe. The feeling of hope was stronger than ever before. "Is this the end?" she whispered to Nico, who stood beside her. Nico smiled softly. "It is a new beginning. The ironclads will not forget this defeat, but they will think twice before returning. For now, peace is possible." The Queen nodded. "Our people have suffered much. It is time to rebuild." The fleet returned to Zuran space. Everywhere, the people cheered as their ships came home. The months of fear and hardship were finally giving way to relief and celebration. At the spaceport, families waited to embrace their loved ones. Children ran through the streets, their laughter bright against the dark skies. Queen Vila visited the colonies personally, offering words of encouragement. "We fought for our future," she told them. "Now we must work together to make it strong." Nico helped organize efforts to repair damaged ships and build new ones. His human knowledge of technology proved invaluable. The Zuran engineers were eager to learn, and the partnership between them grew stronger. One evening, Queen Vila held a meeting with her commanders and Nico. "The ironclads may return," she warned. "But we are ready. We have learned much about fighting smart and working as one." Commander Ran agreed. "Our new fleet is faster, smarter, and stronger. We will protect our home." Nico added, "And we must keep sharing knowledge. Peace is not just the absence of war, it is the strength to avoid it." The Queen smiled. "Well said, Nico. Together, we will build a future that no enemy can break." But peace also brought new challenges. Some Zurans still feared the ironclads might come back. Others wanted to strengthen their defenses even more. Queen Vila listened to all voices, knowing that a strong leader must balance courage with wisdom. She created councils where people could share their ideas and concerns. She encouraged young pilots to train and learn from both Zuran and human experience. "The future belongs to all of us," she said. "We must be ready, but we must also hope." Months passed. The Zuran worlds grew stronger and more united. Trade between Zuran colonies increased, and new friendships formed between species. Nico found a place among the Zuran people. Though he was human, he was accepted as one of their own. One day, he stood beside Queen Vila, looking out at a bright new star rising on the horizon. "Thank you, Nico," the Queen said quietly. "Without your advice and courage, we might have lost everything." Nico smiled. "I only helped because I believed in your people. You showed me the power of hope and unity." The Queen looked at him with gratitude. "We are stronger because we stood together." In the distance, the stars shone like never before. The galaxy was vast, full of dangers and wonders. But for now, the Zurans were safe. As the sun rose on a new day, Queen Vila knew their story was only beginning. With courage, wisdom, and friends by their side, the Zuran people faced the future ready for whatever might come.